It's puck time for Friday, November the 8th. This is a sort of an express shortened version of puck time. It's only Alex B. Smith of Sports Memo and myself. Only 3 games on the card tonight, and there's an early afternoon game if you're watching this video early that goes at 2 o'clock. That's being played in Stockholm, Sweden. But let's welcome from Sports Memo Alex B. Smith.
Hey, yeah, how's it going, Carm? It's like I said, a quick Friday because we had obviously the busy Thursdays and then leads to the busy Saturday. But a couple of interesting games to watch. Last night was just a lot of weird, random stuff that happened in the NHL. You had the Hawks. My play was on Vancouver. My Hawks actually showed up to play a game for a change, and they won 4-1. Caught Vancouver in a bit of a flat spot there, so it's kind of a tough loser to take. I know we were talking off air about the Carolina and New York Rangers game, and the weird anomaly that is the Rangers getting outshot 2-1. This has happened multiple times in the series, and yet the Rangers find ways to beat Carolina. This is a strange trend that has gone on for now well over a decade.
Yeah, and it's something that I wanted to mention because I know there's a lot of guys that watch this video and a lot of guys that follow me either on Twitter or at WagerTalk. And I had a big play in that game. I had a 5% play. It's the first losing 5% play in NHL. And we're going back to like the playoffs and even the regular season where I hit a lot of these, but you lose some. And, I was out watching that game. I wasn't at home. I was out watching the game. And it was unbelievable what Lundqvist was doing in that first period. I had to look at the stats on my phone. I'm like, we're peppering this guy and we can't score. And I looked and it was like 19-5, the shots on goal with about 2 minutes left. And of course, in scoreless games, that feeling just starts to come that hey, this isn't going to be my day. They're going to score. And unfortunately, they did score. And even though Carolina tied it up and put 47 shots on goal, 47-19 were the final numbers in that game. Lundqvist just absolutely stood on his head. Kudos to the Rangers, but apologies to my clients on a losing wager in what's been a very good NHL season. It was a 1-2 night last night, and this is one of the things with us in this business is, and especially myself, people who know me I hate losing plays, and it's not that I hate losing plays as a whole. But when I tell someone that I like a play or they purchase a play and it loses, I don't enjoy it. I'd rather be losing my money only on a losing wager or over the course of a year. If you hit 55 or 60% in NHL and you're just playing your own plays, it's one thing. But when you're telling other people to follow you, if they follow you short term, unfortunately, it sucks, for lack of a better word. If they're with you long term, you buy an NHL 7-day package, or you buy a half season or a full season. At the end of the season, I'm definitely going to be up. I'm not trying to be egotistical, but every WagerTalk's NHL season has been a profitable one. The last one was a big one, and I'm up 50 plus units already on the year for NHL. So there's going to be dips, and this was a dip. It sucks. I hate it. I said to myself when I go home, man, I suck. I'm harder on myself than people on Twitter are on me. So, but
yeah, and it's funny you say that because I'm the exact same way. And that's the thing is, I beat myself up quite a bit when it was play, losing a play or even a play. Like I said, I didn't know that, like you said, we were talking about it. I liked New York in that spot. I mentioned it on the show, and I said that big price because I knew the history that the Rangers had. And I left that one completely off my card, and I'm just like, wow, that almost burns me more that to leave money on the table as opposed to a play that a play can fall short, miss a goal here or a penalty or a call there can screw you over. But like I said, yeah, it's a grind, and those are the things that we deal with in the ebb and flow in our business.
yeah, last night and looking at some of the games, it seemed like there were some goalies who just absolutely stood on their heads. I'll look at the Toronto Vegas game. Frederick Anderson, unbelievable game he had. He very rarely throws in a clunker. Toronto's got a very good goalie there. Unfortunately, they have no backup. Hutchinson isn't very good, and I don't know.
Right.
what they can do as far as that goes. But Subban, and the funny thing is, I'm watching the game with a couple friends of mine, and one of my friends turns to me and says, the Subban family lives literally 5 minutes away from him. They're around the corner from him. It's the parents, I guess. But yeah, he's like, he goes, when he took an Uber to head over to the sports bar to watch the game, the Uber went right by the Subban house. He goes, all the lights were off. I go, because they were probably at the Scotiabank Arena watching the game. So that's one of the things. All right, listen, we're going to jump right into this. There's 3 games on the card. There's an afternoon card, which is being played in Stockholm. We'll talk about that briefly later, but Bruins and the Red Wings. Red Wings at home. They're just not playing well right now. They've allowed, 22 goals in the last 4 games, all losses. They've lost each of those games by 4 or more goals. And they welcome the Boston Bruins, who are coming off a loss to the Montreal Canadiens. The line right now is Bruins minus 260. Detroit is plus 215. The total is 6 here. Minus 115 on the over. Give me your thoughts.
No, the only thing I can look at here would be Bruins team total over 3.5. You'd be laying $1.40, $1.45 with that. Detroit, I guess the unlucky number for them has been 5. It seems like every game, for the most part, they've given up 5 or more goals. It was 5-1 loss to the Rangers. They had a 5-1 loss, 5-2 loss to say Vancouver and Ottawa. Previous weeks, they end up losing 5-4 in overtime to St. Louis. The defense has just been atrocious. It's not even the goaltending. I mean, watching that Ranger Red Wing game a couple nights ago, how Jimmy Howard just hung out to dry. It was the defenseman all around him that were just completely out of position. You could see the frustration on his face through his mask that, he was doing all he could. It was just the blue liners in front of him. And I know there's some injury issues there too. Trevor Daley and Mike Green were out for that contest. They're probably going to be out for this one too. But I just feel like Boston, and they're going to be a little ticked off the way that they end up losing that game against Montreal, end up snapping their streak. I think they're going to take out all their frustration on this Detroit defense tonight.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with you. If your book offers it and you can take team totals, it's a good one because defensively, Detroit's just not doing it. They're allowing goals. And you look at, the Bruins, even in that loss, they scored 4. But game before that, 6, 5, 5, 7, 3. But that was to the Blues, and they still shut them out 3-0. 4 goals the game before that. So they're scoring goals. So even if somehow Detroit exercises their demons and comes up with one of their good games, they're only going to win a game in a shootout. And I just don't see them scoring goals. The Bruins are scoring goals, so that's a good way to go. Can't touch the total here. There's been a lot of Detroit totals at 6.5. It's because defensively they're not playing very well right now, but they're not scoring. So you're relying on whoever they're playing to do the bulk of the scoring. I love in our comment section the other day there was a couple of guys going at it, and they're just arguing about the Detroit. I think it was the Detroit Rangers over under one. It was 6.5, and one guy's on the over, one guy's on the under. And I love these guys in the comment section. So please keep commenting. Yeah. It's great because it's essentially like 2 guys at a bar who are friends arguing over a game. You have different views. Right. And this is how it is. We can't all agree on, we're not a cult where we're all agreeing on the same thing. At the end of the day, Detroit, it was 5-1 final, and it stayed under the total. You're going to see, I think, a lot of Detroit numbers lined at 6 now until they either start to score or become better defensively. But there's at 6, there's no play here. You can't take the under because you can't trust that defense, and at some point they're going to score a couple goals, you would think.
Yeah, and this is a spot, like I said, because of how Boston lost that game last time and the fact that their offense was clicking, they could get 6 on their own. So, the only way I would look at it under, if maybe we see over money come in and it moves to 6.5, it's like, do you really think it's going to be a 6-1 or a 7-0 Boston game? I don't see that happening. So, like I said, if you can find a team total over 3.5 with Boston's literally the only thing that I would even remotely think about touching it.
Yeah. All right, we're going to move on to Vancouver, Winnipeg. Um, this Winnipeg team confuses me. When I think they're going to score some goals, they don't. When I think they're going to score some goals, yeah, they don't. And when I think they're going to play a nice, strong defensive game, you end up with like a 7-4 final, like a few nights back again in Anaheim.
Yeah.
They're home to the Canucks. Excuse me, Canucks played last night against your Chicago Blackhawks. So because we're not doing the last minute in the Prez's voice, we're going to use that voice throughout the show. But, hit the road. They were expected to win that game. They were favored on the road, and now they go to Winnipeg. And Winnipeg's playing better defensively. I know they did lose to the Devils in OT. 2-1, but they're picking up points. They're starting to put some wins together, and you can get them at -125.
Yeah, and this is an interesting spot here. Like I said, the second night of back-to-backs for the Canucks, who've been playing really good hockey. They just laid an egg. I don't know if they just kind of underestimated, the Hawks catching what seemed to be a flat spot for them. I mean, just the way that they've been playing lately, they didn't have. And that game, I watched all of it. It wasn't so much that the Hawks dominated the whole time. I mean, it was more so Vancouver just not taking advantage of the space that was in front of them. It seemed like Vancouver had plenty of opportunities to tie that game. It was a 2-1 game for the longest time, and Patrick Kane got a great goal. Alex DeBrincat actually had a wonderful highlight reel goal. If you guys haven't seen it, I know I retweeted it on my line, but definitely worth checking out. But Vancouver now, you got Thatcher Demko is more likely going to get the start. He's 4-1 on the year with a 1.78 goals against. He's been very good. Like I said at the beginning of the year, talking about the Western Conference preview, I said this Markstrom Demko, they could be one of the better 1A 1B setups that we've seen, in the league. And right now they're kind of proving that theory to be true. It's a Winnipeg team they're just way too fickle to bet on right now. They, like I said, when they should show up and step up for a game, they don't. And then times where you think they're going to, be flat, they'll come back and play well. Like I said, the defense, they've gotten that at least tightened up a little bit. So maybe a look at the under 6. You can catch that at around the even price. But if I had to play a side here, I would only be going with Vancouver.
Yeah. Demko's like, what do we got here? 0.938 save percentage, which is very good. Obviously, it's very good. Which they sort of goes part and parcel with the goals against average, and it's likely Hellenbuck in net. He's 6-5-1. Obviously, a lot of those losses occurred earlier in the season when they kind of struggled. But 0.93 goals against average. If when I was doing the look ahead and looking at this game tonight, I was hoping to see a 6.5. I knew I wouldn't see a 6.5 because I wanted to take the under, and I would have been all over the under. I'm still going to take a shot on the under here. I just think sometimes a team on a back-to-back, especially them who struggled, didn't play well last night, they come back with a good one. So I expect Vancouver to come back with a better defensive performance tonight, and the Jets are playing these 2-1, 3-2, 3-1 games. So under for me here. I tend to agree with you. All right, New Jersey. Looks like I'm seeing Koskinen and Corey Schneider as the starting goalies here. You're getting Edmonton. Wow, they're laying $1.60 here. If you want the Oilers, you can get the. Let me make sure I got that right. You get the Devils at +140. The total here is 6.5. It's shaded to the under. You'd have to lay juice on the under $1.20 if you want to take under 6.5. Thoughts?
I mean, this is a messy game. There's no way I'm backing Corey Schneider with any money right now. He's just been, like I said, a shell of himself nowadays. And you look at the Oilers, they've won 5 of the last 7 meetings against the Devils. They've been flip-flopping wins and losses lately. We talked about, the issues that hinder the Oilers, the issues they've had for quite some time. Outside of McDavid and Draisaitl, they can't find any consistent scoring. Koskinen and Smith have been a formidable duo so far in net, but, you expect one or both of them to regress at some point here. If I had to play anything here, I would be leaning at the draw +305. I could see where this might be kind of a slower paced game. I could see a 2-2 or a 3-3 tie going into regulation. So getting a good price there with the draw on that.
Yeah, it's when I looked at this, it's a tough one because it used to be when teams went to Alberta, and for you people in the U.S., Alberta is one of our provinces here in the middle of Canada. Doing the Alberta double, which was playing Calgary and then the very next night Edmonton or vice versa,
Yeah.
used to be a disastrous trip for teams just because at a time both these teams were very good, played very well, and I still believe as far as the Flames go, they're a very good team. Edmonton, um, they've got scoring. I just don't know what is wrong with this team yet. If they somehow make it into the playoffs in that 7 or 8 spot, they're probably going to get bounced in the first round. So I'm not really sure. But I like the way they played in that loss to the Blues. I thought they played decent in that loss to the Coyotes, but they were both losses. The Flames played the Devils played last night against the Flames in Calgary. They lost 5-2. It's just on a back-to-back, and given the fact that the Oilers have now lost back-to-back games at home, it just you have to, and it's 3 in a row. You look at they lost to Florida, lost to Arizona, lost to St. Louis. Not bad teams by any stretch of the imagination. Very
Right.
good teams. They now get a Devils side that I think are beatable. I'm not sure what is wrong with this Devils team. We talked about it yesterday. I thought they were going to be a lot better than they are
Yeah.
with the additions. Obviously, first pick in the draft, and Subban joining the team. I thought they would be a lot better. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what it's going to take to change this team. What it's going to take to spark this team. But I'm leaning here to the Oilers, and I'm leaning to them. I don't mind personally laying 160. I don't think you should lay 160. Sometimes you can do what Dave Koken refers to as taking them at -1. Like, let's say your regulation time wager on this game is the Oilers minus
Right.
115.
Right, and that's what I would be looking to play. I've even seen a 110 as a shop as well. So if you have the option to play a regulation line and you like the Oilers, that's the best way to go with that. Like I said, I think the draw will come in, so I wouldn't be playing that regulation
Yeah.
side. I think it's going to go in OT. I could see just that pace with New Jersey, and we're hitting that now. If you noticed, a couple of shows ago, I gave out the Arizona Calgary, to go into overtime. These are now these stretches where these teams are starting to get a little fatigued. We're seeing more and more games go into overtime, go into the shootout, because now teams are starting to get their legs on them, playing a little bit more games where the gap and rest isn't there yet. So that's a good prop to look at now as opposed to where the beginning of the year. And obviously, the best time of year for that is really toward the end of the season when you have matchups where two teams are playing and they each need a point.
Yeah.
They're not going to risk losing in regulation. If they're tied usually by the 10-minute part of the third period, they're going to skate it out and figure it out in OT because, hey, let's not risk, getting ourselves in a situation where we end up with 0 points. Let's take our point and then, settle it in overtime on the
Yeah,
shootout.
absolutely. You shorten the bench in those last 10 minutes, and you secure the point. For lack of a better word, for me it just comes down to I'm not a big um, Corey Schneider fan right now. I just um, 4.71 goals against average, not that great. 0.847 save percentage. They played back to back. So let's see how the legs are in the third period for this team if the Oilers have the lead. So it's a tough
And
one.
it's funny because I know Dave was talking about it yesterday on the show about Jonathan Quick and how he's kind of, pretty much, at the tail end of his career. That's how I feel about Corey Schneider. Schneider doesn't have the minutes or miles on his body that Quick does. Honestly, talking about trading, I think that would be a good straight up trade. Maybe Quick does find some resurgence in a getting a change of scenery. He's been in LA his whole career. Corey Schneider getting back into the Western Conference where we saw him play really well back in the days with Vancouver. Maybe that's something that both these goaltenders need, especially more so with Schneider. Like I said, he's the younger guy, the fresher of the two. He hasn't had really the injury issues that Quick has, so that's something that maybe those teams would consider looking at because they definitely New Jersey needs some help with goaltending. Mac Blackwood's not the answer right
Yeah.
now. And LA is just going to kind of be in the middle of the ocean, for the rest of the season anyway. So they might as well go on and let Campbell be the number one guy, and then have a veteran guy like Schneider be the backup.
He's Alex B. Smith of Sports Memo. Obviously, I'm Carmine Bianco of WagerTalk. You can get 7 days of Alex's NHL using promo code NHL49. 7 days. Alex always has cards up. So
no hockey for me tonight, but I do have a 5% play in college hoops, and tomorrow I have a 5% play going in college football. It's actually my biggest bet of the year.
All right, so I'm going to throw one further there. If you head over to Sports Memo, you should be clicking on Alex's 3-day package and get tonight through to Sunday. I believe you should have that up there. You guys can pick up all of his plays. He's been on a good run. If you want NHL only, use that code NHL49. Save it. You can use it tomorrow. And even if you put it in today and he passes on NHL, that you'll still get 7 days.
Extend over the next day, and I will have some hockey up tomorrow with a bigger card Saturday. And there's a couple of things I like. I always look ahead now at this time of year. So there will be plays Saturday, will be plays Sunday for both.
Awesome.
Both of those.
There's one final game before we go. This one's being played in about a couple of hours in Stockholm, Sweden. They're playing 2 games tonight and on Saturday. Tampa Bay and Buffalo. Buffalo's the home team as far as just a sort of scheduling here, but obviously it's a neutral game. Tampa Bay is minus 165. Buffalo is plus 145. The total is 6.5. It's interesting what they're doing with the starters. It's Vasilevsky in net tonight or today, this afternoon. For Tampa Bay, it's Ullmark, who essentially is the backup for the Sabres, in goal for Buffalo. And then tomorrow they're flipping it. It'll be Hutton for the Sabres, and it'll be McElhinney for Tampa Bay. So all 4 goalies, we'll see them. So as far as obviously lineup wise, Tampa Bay is a better thing, but Hutton's a very good goalie. But the fact that Ullmark's in net today would lead me to likely want to take Tampa Bay today and possibly the over here. Any thoughts?
I actually would go the other side. I would take Buffalo today. Ullmark playing in his home country, I think that's going to be huge. I'm sure he's going to have family and friends there. Catching them at a plus 145 price. You can't get up for a game at playing at home, and obviously this will be more likely the only time in his career he's going to have an NHL regular season game in Sweden. So that's the only angle I can find out of here. Like I said, Tampa Bay is the better team in my opinion, even though we've seen the Sabres playing well. Like I said, we saw this last year. Sabres and Lightning were at the tip top of the Atlantic, and Lightning ended up winning. I think most of those. I don't know, it wasn't a sweep, but I know they won 3 out of the 4 meetings, I want to say. So just a slight lean with Buffalo today, and then we'll probably play Tampa tomorrow. And
that's something that I actually did not consider, and it's a very good point with Ullmark. In front of his, obviously, it's always the team in front of you, but a goalie can stand on his head, as we saw last night with Lundqvist. So
right.
Definitely.
Yeah, and there's a lot of Swedes on that Buffalo team. You got Rasmus Dahlin. Yeah. There's at least 3 or 4 top flight Swedish guys on this Buffalo team that I'm sure they're going to be really excited to be playing back in their native country.
Yeah,
so
I am a Buffalo Sabre fan, of course. I think we've mentioned on the show, and yes, we have quite a few Rasmus names on our on our team, but I'm perfectly fine with that. Sabres are in a bit of a dip right now, nosedive, having lost like 4 of the last 5, I believe. But the team will recover. Whether long term they can make the playoffs, I don't know. They're essentially I have the Sabres slated as a 7, 8, 9 kind of team where they're somewhere at the end of the season. They're going to be battling for that eighth spot, likely, along with a few other teams. But all right, so that sounds good. That's a wrap. Again, Alex B. Smith, Sports Memo, head over there. He's got a couple big plays coming up in college hoops and college football. If you want his NHL 49 gets 7 days of his plays for only $49. You're back on Monday with the kid. I'm not sure. He called in sick today. I'm going to need to see his doctor's note for Monday. And then the Prez returns on Tuesday, and you guys are all going to get punished because it'll be the Prez. Hey guys, good luck with your wagers. Once again, sorry about my 5% play last night. We'll get it back this weekend with some big hockey slates. Good luck with your wagers, guys.